Good afternoon, team. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Good
I'm good,
afternoon.
thanks.
Excellent, excellent.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Ben. And Craig, it's actually fantastic to have you both participate in our Inspiring the Next Generation of Technology Leaders series. It'd be great to learn more about your experience and background. And in the first instance, please could you both introduce yourself, please? And can I hand over to you, please, Ben?
Sure. So I'm Ben Bachmann. I'm working at Bilfinger. Bilfinger is an industrial services company. I'm running global security and the enterprise architecture here. I've been doing security in the last, I don't know, 10 years or something, being CISO before at Ströer, working for a lot of consulting companies, bigger and small ones. And I strongly believe that people are not the biggest issue in security.
Absolutely. Well said. Absolutely. And over to you, please, Craig.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm the CIO for Hotelplan UK. I've been in technology for over 30 years now, so I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of change. So I have a lot of experience of all that. Looking forward to sharing some of that with you this afternoon.
Excellent. Excellent. Right. So let's begin. In the first instance, we are going to focus on a theme which is about the future of tech leadership, culture, cognition, and consumption. And with that said, I'd like to begin with the first question, which is how do you reframe people's role in security? And that's over to you, please, Ben.
Okay, so why do we need to reframe it? I don't know at first, but I think a lot of people are talking about people being the weakest link. Maybe that's what you meant. I
Yeah,
think people are not the weakest link. I think people are the first kind of defenders. And if we're talking about people being the weakest link, I can agree to some extent, but it's not the people that everyone is thinking about. It's more like the IT admins or the software developers who are the weakest link in terms of security. Not to not to offend anyone, but if the IT guys or the software developers would do a great job, then we would live in a more secure way.
very, very true. Absolutely. And over to you, please, Craig.
And I agree, really. I think it's quite outdated to look at people as the weakest link. They're really the first line of defense. Yeah. Um, and weakness tends to come from poor processes, bad design. That punish mistakes in culture.
Mm.
We need to get to a sort of no blame culture and celebrate when someone spots and reports a phishing attempt. We celebrate when people stop somebody falling down a ladder. We should do the same from a security perspective. Yeah. Um, so I think we should, make people the strongest link and give them the tools to help them do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. They are the defenders. So people are not the weakest link, are not the weakest link. They are absolutely the defenders of the environment.
They are the most important sensor, to be honest. So actually, if someone is clicking on some link and entering his credentials or something, and nothing is happening or not the thing is happening that they were expecting, then they should give me a call and everything is fine. The biggest issue is if they are not thinking about reporting that because they are afraid of being tortured or something,
Yeah.
or fired, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant. Okay. So I'm going to move on to another area of discussion that looks at cognition, simplicity, and guardrails. What is the real bottleneck in technology adoption? And that's over to you, please, Craig.
Um, I don't think bottleneck is it's not innovation. You see innovation every single day. Yeah. Look at the speed that AI has taken off. It's that human cognition that, we can't keep up. Yeah. We're just humans. We're still reprogramming our brains every day. And as intellectual as our brains are, yeah, our capacity to absorb complexity is really difficult sometimes. our job as leaders really is to simplify these things. And, we should create the interfaces that create, safe behavior and guide safe behavior in the event of innovation. So, when you're building a solution, are you making it safe for the user to use? Are you allowing AI to be used safely? Are you protecting your business? You're protecting your data? 70 years ago, you'd have got into a car with no seatbelts and no airbags. But you wouldn't get into a car today with no seatbelts and no airbags, purely because it's illegal. But it's changed, and we need to think about, are we building a system that's got seatbelts and airbags for our users? You don't just jump into the car and go drive safely. You jump in a car and know you're safe and secure if you do have an accident. Your system's the same. Do you say to your users, use it safely? Or do you actually build your systems so that they are safe and they do have those controls and those guardrails, and you build from the ground up? Yeah. And, if you're using AI is really, advancing at a pace that, most people are struggling to keep up with. But you need to build the trust, and trust comes from when people understand these things. Yeah. And they'll question and they'll rely on the guardrails. So you sort of want some black box complexity, but without explaining everything, and that erodes the confidence in the users. So I think it's really important to demand simplicity in the design and the build, and make sure those guardrails are in every system that you procure and every system that you deploy for your business.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that's a good point, but I think we missed something. So I think one of the biggest showstoppers or whatsoever is that we have very slim IT organizations, and that the people are already busy 95 to 120% of their time. So there's no real time capacity to take care of new stuff. So I think that's one of the biggest issues that I would like to add what you said.
Absolutely. It seems as though, human cognition is not innovation, it slows progress. So, yes, it's really a case of, trying to figure out where the bottlenecks are and adapting as best possible. Excellent. So what solutions would you suggest to sort of get around technology adoption where bottleneck can be visible? In your what solutions have you sort of engaged in your environments where you've seen bottlenecks with regards to technology adoption? And let's go. And if I could please hand over to you, please, Craig.
I think the main bottleneck is, like Ben said, it's like we're already at 95 to 120% capacity. So it's getting that buy-in of implementing the next thing. So it goes down to how do we get around that? We prioritize based on value. Yeah. The bottlenecks we see are people and the time that they have. And the only way you can get around that is prioritize it. You've got to look after the culture of your people. And you've got to make sure as a business you're working on the most value add projects that you can be. And that may be sometimes you have to shuffle what you're doing. You might have to stop one and start another one. And you have to, we build a very agile environment at Hotelplan. We review our priorities every month, and we make sure we're delivering the best we can for our customers and our colleagues. And that's how we try and limit the bottlenecks that we do create.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that I see from security, if we're talking about implementing new security stuff or something, then all the vendors are telling us, hey, implementation is only, I don't know, a day, 2 days, a very short amount of time. And that's fair, but I need someone to take a look after the implementation and to operate that. And then we are again at the point where I don't have the capacity, people-wise, to implement everything that I wanted to implement.
Yeah, and that's that element where you just mentioned, you don't have necessarily the people to implement the solutions that you need. How do you navigate that? Is it just like Craig was just mentioned, trying to get buy-in for the need, or how do you deal with that? And that's for you, please, Ben.
Okay. Well, that's the $1 million question, right?
Okay.
So talking to the board, trying to explain why you need that and hope for the best.
Yeah.
And probably tell it every time you meet them, set it on the risk log, something like that. So
Yeah.
it's, from my point of view, it's all about talking to the board, trying to address the needs and try to explain to them in a vocabulary they understand. So something like Lego for 3 to 6 year olds.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely, understand and get it. But that really, I mean, let's really lead us to the next question or the next topic, which is, looking at tech business in the boardroom. So following on from your previous answer, Ben, and this is for you, why must tech leaders understand business operations?
Why should they not? Actually, I only can support someone if I understand what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have a clue about what the business is, then I'm probably not the best advisor in why we should implement something or why we should not use that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I don't need to know every detail about what we are doing or what the business is doing, but I need to have a brief kind of idea. I need to be able to explain it to someone else, my children, for instance.
Absolutely. Brilliant. And over to you, please, Craig.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, do you want to just be the IT guy or do you want to be the business IT guy? Yeah, because you need to understand, where does the business make money? Where do the margins sit? Where's the high value product? How do we drive growth? How do we engage with our customers? What are we looking for from our customers? Um, that differentiate you from just being an IT guy. You need to understand how the business works, how the business functions, what the processes are in the business, and how you can enhance them as a CIO. Otherwise, you're just not enabling that business, and that's what you should be using technology for: is to enable your business to improve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just to add something, I don't want to be any IT guy at all. I don't want to be the IT guy or the business IT guy because I'm doing security. I don't really care about IT. I care about IT that it's running, but I don't want to be an IT guy, and I'm
You want to be
not.
a security guy.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then leading on to that, or leading on from there, my next question, which focuses on security by design and organizational change, how should security be approached? And that's to you, please, Craig.
um, I think there's a multitude of ways, and um, you can't just bolt security on. Yeah. It should be built in from the start, just like accessibility, sustainability, you embed secure practices, coding into your dev. You have security checkpoints in your project approvals. You don't wait till the end of the project to pen test it. You pen test it during, so that you can fix it before it gets to even the QA. And I think the board need to understand that, especially if you might have a non-technical board. Now, these days, a lot of board members are becoming more and more technical, but they might see security and tech as a cost center. And I think we need to get around that, and we need to be, one of the key skills as a good CISO or CIO is that skill of storytelling. Yeah, and translating what your risk and your opportunity is into financial and reputational language, so that the board understand, what risks am I taking as a business if I don't do this security element? If I don't add another week on to do pen testing into this project because it'll delay it a week. You need to be able to tell that story. Yeah, and we need to be able to celebrate secure behavior. Yeah. And making it part of performance reviews and leadership scorecards. So how secure was it? How much coding did we put in to make it secure? How quickly did it become secure? Those kind of KPIs need to start driving into our business now, to ensure security is absolutely part of the project profile and product profile that we're delivering.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that one, but I might disagree a bit. So yeah, we need to integrate security way earlier in projects, but I'm not sure if the board needs to be aware of that. We just need to enforce that everyone is doing security or involving security from, I don't know, even before the project request, before it's a project. I think there need to be a couple of different quality gates, security quality gates. One before a project request is filled in, one before the project is started, and iterative. And I don't think that every project needs to have a pen test. I think that would be nice, but who has the money for that? I'm not sure. Maybe I think most companies I've worked with don't have the money to pen test everything.
Was a question I would ask that company is, do they have the money to pay the ransomware that they might get involved in, or the insurance, or loss of productivity, or loss of business?
Yeah, but it's
where do you find that balance? I suppose is a key element there.
Yeah, it has to be a risk-based approach. I totally agree. If it's something that's really important to you and or that can do a lot of harm, then you need to kind of pen test it. For instance, we are implementing a new security solution, and we are just doing a code analysis of their solution and pen testing it. Not because I don't trust in my vendor that we are implementing, but just to sleep better for myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ben, thanks for sharing. And you mentioned earlier that you felt that the organization or leadership doesn't need to know about what the security approach is. Can you just elaborate a bit more on that? I.e., is that due to an organizational shift, or what brings to mind when you say that the board does not need to know if there's the security approach?
Oh, maybe I was not precise enough. So the board needs to know what we are doing in terms of security, but on a high level. They don't need to know that we are pen testing every application in, I don't know, after the first proof of concept and blah, blah, blah. They don't need to know that. Right. They need to know that we are doing security, kind of what our guardrails are, and they need to be able to explain it to their, I don't know what, Aufsichtsrat, board of, I don't know what that means in English. And who are the ones controlling the board of directors in English?
The members.
The executive board of shareholders. So
yeah, I don't know. So they need to be able to explain to them that they are doing something in security. They need to be able to explain it to the authorities that they have some clue about security. But they don't need to know how security absolutely works. It's kind of the same, like I need to know how our business operates or what they are doing on a high level, but I don't need to know the details. Yeah. If I would care about all the details, then I could not do my job, because I would just talking to people and understanding what they are doing.
Yeah.
I think that's key. With the KPIs and how we measure it and OKRs. I think that's really key, because it's an easy way of just giving a visual impact of what we're doing without going into detail.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So the next segment that I'd like to focus on is looking at AI, vendor bias, and technical consumption, or technology consumption, should I say. What was debated about AI adoption in terms of, is that an environment that is flourishing in your opinion, or is it a bit apprehensive in terms of AI adoption in organizations, in your experience? And let's hand over that to Ben, please.
Well, I think AI adoption is a difficult one, and it really depends on the organization you're working in and the kind of AI tools that you want to allow or not, and the countries you're operating in and the data that you're working with. So for instance, in Europe, it's not that easy to just let everyone use any AI application that they want to use without having data privacy agreements and stuff like that. So I think the best way is to decide on a stack of AI applications and tell the people, hey, you're allowed to use those, and try to convince them to not use other ones, or block them, or tell them they have to fill in a request, and if you're trying to consider something like that.
And over to you, please, Craig.
I think it's very difficult at the moment. I mean, if you look at the stats, there's about 10 new AI applications that appear every day. So how do you stay on top of what's happening in that world? And then, do you build your own, or do you buy from a supplier? And for most organisations, unless they've got really proprietary data, then it's not really worth building your own. Why are you going to reinvent what somebody's pretty much already done for you? These companies are investing billions of pounds into the development of these tools. Um, and then you've got obviously the element of bias and manipulation, which is always difficult. If you look at technology, it's not changed in the 30 years I've worked in it. It's always been crap in, crap out. So if your data's poor, your AI is going to be poor. And I think you've also got to build a knowledge of, and especially leaders in technology, awarenesses of algorithmic. I can't even say it. Algorithmic biases and demand transparency, in the supply chain, because it changes as you work through that AI supply chain. How do you make sure that algorithm maintains the correct bias, no matter where it runs across the globe? So if you've got a global organization, how do you make sure one tool works in every area across that organization? I think that's really important to look at. And if you look at, a lot of people are building less and buying smarter, in a sense. So what do you buy? Focus on resources. Where's it actually going to make the differentiation element? What are you actually buying for? Where does tech touch your customers? Where does it make a difference to your employees? Sometimes I think we're just throwing AI in because it sounds good, because it's this year's buzzword and it was last year's and it'll probably be next year's, because it's going to have a huge impact. Yeah, there's no question about that. But are we really getting value out of it yet at a production scale? Some people are, very few are, though.
Yeah, that's very true. And what are the risks and the trends that you're seeing with regards to AI adoption? And what's the, is it sort of looking at, say, for example, vendor bias in AI recommendations, and there's a shift? Is this sort of shifted towards whether it be building less with or while buying smarter tech solutions? What are you seeing in your individual environments? And let's please hand this over to Ben, please, initially.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues or risks that I see is kind of data loss. So that people are entering kind of confidential data or want to improve that, and someone else is getting the data out of that AI. So that's the biggest risk I can see. Another one, it's the same like with personal information, so that we have some data privacy kind of incident because someone is, I don't know what, using AI to build up profiles or something that they are not allowed to.
Okay. And over to you, please, Craig.
I mean, very similar. I mean, what's it shown us? It's shown us how bad our data is. That's the first thing it tells you. Yeah. Is that, your data isn't as good as you thought it was. It's got quality issues. It's got gaps in it. Yeah. So, before you even get to the bias of, vendors trying to sell, and, I agree with Ben, the risk of, everybody wants to use it. Everybody wants to jump on, ChatGPT, Copilot, all the options that are out there. But they're quite happily typing all their personal details to get an answer about themselves. And they don't realize that they're actually just giving that to the external world, all that data. And they do it with business data as well. So I think it's really important that, we put the guardrails in, as we said earlier. And when we buy products, we do buy smart. And the products come with the relevant guardrails so that we keep that any data we do input, which stays within the organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's really important.
Over to you, please, Ben. Please continue.
And I just wanted to emphasize that it's really important to be aware of what kind of AI solution is going to be purchased, and to be really, I don't know, kind of harsh with sanctioning people not using AI tools that are not allowed.
And the question then comes down to how do you then establish those AI tools that shouldn't be allowed? Are there common tools that shouldn't be allowed straight from the get-go, or are there tools that an organization will decide not to be allowed based on their position in the market? How does
Well, I
one
think
navigate
the
that?
organization has to decide which applications they are using. I think it's not about building a block list, it's about building a allow list and telling, hey, this is my stack of AI applications. I have one that can generate, I don't know what, something for marketing guys. I have some LLMs like Claude or something. We use something for creating, I don't know what. But I would tend to say, hey, we have an allow list. Those applications are allowed. Everything not on that list is forbidden. Full stop. And you're going to get your hands cropped off if you're not really, but we need to do that technically. We have to make sure that other applications are not reachable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's building that culture of trust again, isn't it? It's like, the users need to trust what they're using. And most of the time they don't really know. They're just assuming it's safe. And our job as tech leaders and CISOs is to make sure it is safe. So I think, yes, we have an allow list, but we don't want to stop innovation. So we're happy to talk to the business about what do you want to achieve? What do you actually want to get to? So rather than the business coming with a solution, they come with a problem. And then we'll look at the relevant solutions or implement a safe, secure environment to deliver that. You can. There's so much out there at the moment. It's so easily to fall into the wrong trap and end up with a real problem. So I agree with Ben. We're creating a lay list and we allow people to innovate within, the secured, safe environments. Ourselves, we use AWS, we use Copilot with Microsoft. And we've got our own internal version of LLM on ChatGPT. So, we keep that data in our own business. So, but you still get the functionality.
Yeah. And just because we have an allow list of, let's say, 10 applications, that's just a number I made up, then it's not said that this is not changing. So if you, for instance, tell me, hey, you need ChatGPT for whatsoever reasons, and there is strong need in that, and we can make that happen securely in our guardrails, then why not? Yeah. But we cannot allow the usage of every AI application out there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed. Okay. So I'm going to steer back to your career journeys and leadership's lessons. And I wonder if you could reflect on pivotal career movements or moments and lessons that have shaped your leadership path. And if I can hand that over to you, please, Craig.
If I went through all the lessons I've learned in the last 30 years, Ben wouldn't make his next meeting and I would probably be. So I think over 30 years, I've probably had about 900 lessons. It's probably one a day in it. So, we're always learning. There's a great saying: every day's a school day. I think, I made an early transition from a technical specialist into leadership, and I think the first thing, which as a lot of people do, you start as an operator or developer or or an ethical hacker, and it's not about being the smartest engineer, but it's about being able to empower others to achieve great results as well alongside you. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, how smart are you at empowering others that you work alongside. That's a big learning. Failures do, they do drive your success. It's without doubt, as long as you can learn from them. I've pushed transformation projects too fast and I've left the business behind, the tech's all delivered and I've looked over my shoulder and there's a business a couple of miles back, a couple of months back. Whoops, it just doesn't land. It just doesn't land if you deliver tech without the business next to it. And I think, and then you have to take joy from the good stuff that happens. I've seen people who I've mentored that are now CIOs or heads of or directors of and even CEOs in some areas. So you've got to take the wins as well, not just the failures that you learn from.
Yeah, I like that. So I think one thing that's important that I try to tell everyone, or even guys that are not that long in the business, is sometimes you have to be bold, and you have to take shoes that are way bigger than your feet, and you can probably get your feet growing. And I did it a couple of times in my career. And I really like that. I might be too bold in some cases, but I think it's important. It's really, if you want to achieve something, if you want to grow, then you cannot just sit somewhere and hope for someone else is giving you an opportunity.
Yeah.
So you need to take that, create it, and kind of try to
absolutely
work through it.
Yeah, be bold. Absolutely. Okay. So, what advice would you give to aspiring technology leaders? And that's to you, please, Ben.
I'm not sure. I don't have to do anything with technology, so I'm normally
Or
not working with those guys.
security, aspiring security leaders.
I know. I'm just kidding. So actually, for someone who wants to be a CISO in the near future, I would tell them every time that they don't need to focus that much on technology. They need to be able to talk to everyone, from the guys sitting at the front door and or the people that are sitting in boardrooms. So they need to be able to talk to everyone. They need to be able to have a good understanding on how technology works, because it's not a good thing if you want to talk to an administrator and they are thinking that you don't have any clue of what they are telling to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to be able to communicate well with everyone in the language they need. And this is especially in terms of going to the board or trying to do awareness campaigns with all of your employees.
Absolutely.
Get out of the ivory tower.
Yeah, agreed. And to you, please, Craig.
Similar. If you're an aspiring leader, then you've got to learn to translate technology into business impact. You can't talk tech all the time. You can't sit in the boardroom and talk tech. If you can turn it into business impact, that's a differentiator for you as an individual, and it'll become a differentiator for you for your business as well. So I think that's really important. I mean, when everybody becomes a leader for the first time, I think there's always that rush. You've got to prove yourself. Yeah, I need to know everything. Yeah, and actually, you don't need to know everything. That's just that's a fallacy. That is because what you'll actually get, and you'll realise over time, that influence comes from listening to people, building relationships with people, and being able to frame that bigger picture as to what we're trying to achieve. Yeah, that's when you become really successful as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Wise words there. I'm absolutely agreed. Brilliant. So, what is your favorite books, tools, and habits that have shaped your leadership thinking? And that's over to you, please, Ben.
I'm not really sure. So actually, there's I need to look that up in a second. One book that really helped me to get ahead of my game was Eat That Frog, but that's more about self-organization. There is a German book, I don't know the name right now, which tells that, or which has the kind of conclusion, and I like it, that you are not able to motivate someone. You can just stop to demotivate them. So motivation is something intrinsic and not extrinsic. Extrinsic motivation is not really helpful. So I like that as well, but I need to look up what the name was. I think it was written by Spring.
It's okay. Brilliant. And while you look up that, let me hand over to you, please, Craig.
So I tend to read quite a lot actually, or these days read digitally on my Kindle. I finished a book not long ago called "Will It Make the Boat Go Faster?" which is a book about the British men's rowing team who went from last in the World Championships to Olympic gold.
Okay.
Mediocrity to the best. Yeah. And it's a book about how they just focused on anything that would make the boat go faster. If it didn't, it wasn't focused on. And it's really good because it talks about the sport element and then how you create high performance, how you create those, how you have those conversations when things aren't going well, how you perform under pressure, all of which is relevant in business. Yeah. So it's a really good book. It's a really good read. I think it's got nothing to do with tech, which is great. And I like to spend my time when I'm not doing tech to not do tech. Yeah. So I like to listen to podcasts that are about high performance, or about individuals who are really exceeding what they set out to do. So I like to listen to stuff around psychology, economics, design, so those kind of things that are totally outside, but give me a more rounded view when I come back to the workplace. You talked about what tools do we use. I tend to keep a record of all the key decisions I make, and I have done throughout my career, or for at least for the last 20 years since I've been in leadership. And it's quite interesting when you go back 10 years and say, why did I make that decision? What was the context of that decision? And it helps you to reflect, going forward, that, I've got that journal of all the key decisions I've made and what the context is, what influence comes in from that. And it gives me a new insight the next time I need to make a similar decision. So it's one of my own tools that may one day become a book, but I might retire first.
Well, I'd absolutely be the first at the queue to buy that book, because that is
Same for me.
yeah, that I'd love to just learn and understand the insights there. Wow. Well, thank you. That's really 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 interesting. I think it's I hope you do publish the book, by the way, and I hope you do the same as well, Ben, if you decide to publish a book on your environment and your experience and background. Brilliant. Okay, so my final question is, what advice would you give to your younger selves? Say, for example, if you're 25 years old, what advice would you give to your younger selves that will make meaningful impact in their careers?
I think that's easy. Go to my grandparents, ask them for as much money as they want to give me, and buy Bitcoin.
Right. I like it. I like it. Absolutely. Brilliant. Over to you, please, Craig.
I think become a better footballer, because they earn far more money than you do in tech. But no, on a serious side, I think probably come back to something like, no, it's not just about technology, and technology doesn't succeed on merit alone. It succeeds when people trust it, yeah, and when they see its value. And as a leader, we've got to connect those dots up for people, yeah. So, do you trust it? Do you know how to use it? And can you see the value of it? If you can join those three dots up, you're going to be a great success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If I have to answer it seriously, then I would tell my younger self that he should start to care more about what others think and don't be that blunt. So I had to learn to not always yell my kind of impression of how bad things are into directions of other people, but get a bit more diplomatic and something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood. And wise words as well. Well, Ben and Craig, thank you very much for a very insightful, inspiring the next generation of technology and security leaders. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know more about your career paths, your journey, the human side of security, where you've talked about people are not the weakest link, and there should be a no blame culture. And then we looked at discussion around cognition, simplicity, and guardrails, where it was emphasized that the biggest bottleneck in technology is human cognition, not innovation. And then we looked at tech, business, and the boardroom, and the importance of tech leaders, whether it be understanding business operations. And then we've looked at security by design and organizational change, which reinforced the need to embed security in products and processes from the outset. And then we delved into AI, vendor bias, and tech consumption. And you debated or shared your insights with regards to AI as a service versus whether it be in-house or a vendor-driven bias approach in that space. And it's been an absolute pleasure just to learn more about, as you just discuss your career journeys and what shaped your paths. And it would be, great to follow your careers and to understand more about your successes in the future years to come. So before we conclude, can I please hand over to you, Ben, for you to please share your final piece, please?
Yeah, thanks. So I really like the discussion, and I think it's really important topics that we discussed, and I really like that we agreed on that it's important to have a no-blame culture and to try to strengthen the people instead of telling them you're the biggest issue of everything we're doing, because the people are the capital, or the working capital of the company.
Absolutely, they're the biggest asset. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, I agree. Brilliant. And over to you, please, Craig.
I think, as I said earlier, I understand the value of technology, be able to tell the story about that value, and be able to engage with people, but even more importantly, listen to what people have got to say, because that's where you'll get your learnings from. But it's been a great session. Thank you very much.